I like to read poetry, the linguistically lovely, although my preference is for reading poetic behaviour, our essence and our nature. Before a child is born into our world today, it's long been dictated by the few to the many that they'll never have a say in what kind of a life they'll end up living, or more to the point they'll end up enduring, forced at birth into a system that for the vast majority will only bring exclusion unless you call riding on their backs a form of inclusion. Doesn't it make you proud to be a capitalist? Doesn't it make you proud to be a part of this? 15% of us living in poverty whilst the other 85% pardon?
Sorry, okay.
Yeah, okay. I like to read poetry, the linguistically lovely, although my preference is for reading poetic behaviour, our essence and our nature. Before a child is born into our world today, it's long been dictated by the few to the many that they'll never have a say in what kind of a life they'll end up living, or more to the point they'll end up enduring, forced at birth into a system that for the vast majority will only bring exclusion unless you call riding on their backs a form of inclusion. Doesn't it make you proud to be a capitalist? Doesn't it make you proud to be a part of this? 15% of us living in luxury whilst the other 85% are living in poverty. 25% is their share of international trade, and in the last 21 years the poor of the world have paid 5.4 trillion US dollars in debt, twice the amount of the original loan that still hangs around their necks. In 2008 the poor of the world received 54 billion US dollars in so-called development aid, and in the same year they paid 436 billion in debt to the rich nations of the West, who spend 300 billion US dollars every year on subsidies that prevent the poor countries access to their markets. Free trade agreements are imposed which leave the poor exposed and unable to compete against sophisticated technology. The monopoly over intellectual property and the vast financial resources of the rich leads to gross exploitation of cheap labour forces in assembly plants that come and go at lightning speed. The arms trade and the theft of goods from the national cultural heritage, the cultural invasion of Western domination, the rape and the pillage of the global village. 30,000 children die every day of curable illnesses. 200 million get no education. 2 million girls are forced into prostitution. And the poor 85% of our world population consumes 30% of the energy, 25% of the metals and 15% of timber, whilst genocide is a permanent crime being committed against mankind. I'm talking about the murder of our sisters and our brothers. Although to many of us we see them simply as the others, we become anaesthetised to the suffering of all our sisters and brothers. In London alone I've seen fathers and mothers work 14-hour days. £5 an hour is what they get paid. Never get a chance to be with their children and play. Never get a chance to get ahead of the bills they've got to pay. I've seen teenagers living on the street and we can't look them in the eye. I've met the young wandering aimlessly, lost in their youth. I've seen friends and sons and daughters being led to the slaughter. They were born into the trap of coming from the wrong side of the tracks. Now they're all strung out on crack. Hollywood and sex and violence is our staple diet of entertainment. Enslavement has become a fashion statement. Workers and clothing stitched up in the East and we end up wearing the beast. Sporting events are sponsored by various bottles of beer. The competition's now in a marketplace where only a boomtown rat can win a rat race. I've heard Pepsi pop stars sing for the supper of the many. Millionaires rattling the tin in a world of plenty. We measure our wealth by our possessions, and in our world of advanced technology a lot of us can't even talk to our mothers, hug our fathers or care for our sisters and brothers. Many of us don't know our neighbours and we tell the children not to talk to strangers, and that's what we've become. Strangers to our emotions, strangers to our beauty, strangers to our intelligence and strangers to each other, sitting in front of a television being fed lies, fear and humiliation along with a dose of radiation. It's the ruling violent class's most lethal weapon. We're living in a time of the poverty of mind, but indifference ain't a choice when you got no voice. Outside of our restricted view the revolution's in full flow. Despite increasing US-led Western pressure and terror, Chavez in Venezuela has set up an economy at the service of the people, from the Zapatistas to the landless Brazilians, Native Americans, Aboriginal and Maori activists, the sand people of the Kalahari Desert, from the streets of Seattle and Genoa, the anti-dam protesters in India, the brave teenage Israeli conscript refuseniks, the water boys of South Africa, turning the water back on for the poor because the privatised utilities they can't afford. It's all adding up to the growing destabilisation of the Western privatisation and the theft of the natural resources of all the poor nations. Yes, the revolution's in full flow. Listen to our conversations. This poem is a part of the revolution. Never doubt the power of the written and spoken word. It's the only way the truth can be heard. That's why the ruling violent classes keep such a tight hold on the media's arses. But from Noam Chomsky to Bob Marley, Angela Davis and Gandhi, Arundhati Roy and Michael Franti, Subcommandante Marcus and Paradox, Yap and my grandmama, and millions of our brothers and sisters, each and every one of them gentle and fearless revolutionary warriors. A new song is being sung with rhythms and melodies of beauty and words of intelligence, sweeping away the old ignorance, sweeping away the lies. The revolution will not be terrorised. Peace.